Hey Narwhals, and welcome back to some more weight loss stories. Only a small percentage of our viewers actually subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind later, so please tap subscribe to join the original 100k Narwhals. 95% of dieters regain all the weight and more in 5 years. If you're like me, you've heard this 95% of dieters regain all the weight and more in 5 years figure bandied about and found it quite disheartening. I managed to track this back to a 1959 paper, which I've made available here. And this study was made of 100 obese patients of a nutrition clinic, which doesn't really strike me as an altogether representative sample, as these patients have probably tried losing weight themselves and already failed, which is why they were at the clinic. Anyhow, turns out the 95% figure is really deceptive. Of the 100 patients, only 12 managed to lose more than 20 pounds at any point. This seems incredibly low to me. I've personally lost over 20 pounds and it didn't take iron willpower. I wouldn't consider myself at all exceptional. Of those 12 patients, half kept it off for 1 year and 2 kept it off for 2 more years. At no point is 5 years even mentioned. It was beyond the scope of the study. So the figure, according to the study, should be, and 12 is a tiny sample size, is 16% of people who lose over 20 pounds maintain it for 2 years. Also, of the 9 patients that didn't maintain their weight loss, only 4 regained all the weight within 2 years, with approximately half the weight loss being maintained on average. In a recent study on health effects of long-term weight loss, look-ahead trial focused on cardiac benefits in diabetes patients, I happened to notice that the success rate over 4-year follow-up turned out to be much higher than 5%. The 1428 participants fell out like this. 11% had no weight loss, 14% achieved moderate weight loss, 3 to 8%, and maintained that for 4 years, 18% achieved large weight loss, 8 to 20, and maintained that for all of 4 years of follow-up, 18%, that's pretty good, and 20% achieved moderate weight loss in the first year but had full regain within 4 years, 15% achieved large weight loss in the first year but had full regain within 4 years, and 22% achieved initially large weight loss but had partial regain, but held on to the moderate weight loss at 4 years. So overall, 54% of the participants held on to at least moderate weight loss for at least 4 years. That seems pretty encouraging to me, especially given new data that significant health improvements start happening at just 5% loss. Interestingly, even the regainers who regained all the weight were better off than those who never lost weight at all. Despite total regain, the regainers held on to the improvements in some blood markers, and no negative health effects were noted from a lost regain cycle. Regardless of what the statistics say, I think we all need to respect that weight regain is a huge problem that none of us are above. Some of the most drastic changes I've made to my diet have been since I switched to maintenance, because the defect/problem that drove me to gain the weight in the first place, excessive hunger and appetite for me, is still there. I am still the same person. I am just choosing to exist in a different state. I don't understand all the science yet, but I read studies on metabolism all the time, and I frequently tweak my diet to try to figure out ways of making weight management easier for me, and I definitely had success. I think about food less, and managing my weight is easier than when I first started maintaining. I want to continue to improve because I don't want to rely on raw willpower alone to maintain my weight. After reading this subreddit for 2+ years, I can confidently say that in those who regain the weight, that willpower eventually breaks down. It might take a full year or even 2 years, but eventually some people get tired of fighting every single day and being in pain every single day and give themselves over to their natural selves. I am determined to not let that happen to me, so while I have the willpower to fight, I'm gonna fight as hard as I can. Above and beyond what I need to just exist in my current state, I'm going to fight to make that current state better, easier, and more manageable, so I don't need as much willpower and energy to just exist at a normal weight in the future. A reminder, it's not about motivation, it's about discipline. I've made that mistake so many times in my life, waiting for motivation to kick in. I go to work every morning, not because I'm motivated to do it, I do it because I have to. You have to treat your weight loss the same way. If I only count my calories or work out on the days where I'm motivated, it's going to be a long, arduous road. Discipline is about taking control of your life and of your body, so I make myself a workout schedule and I do it whether I want to or not. And I keep managing my food intake properly, not because today is a good day and I feel good, but because I decided that I will no longer let motivation, or lack thereof, control who I am and what I do. What helped me was not motivation, but a mental switch to this is not some temporary diet to get to some specific goal and then I'm done. And this is just how I eat now. I eat and exercise like a fit person, and eventually my weight will catch up to my new habits. I don't need to rely on motivation because this is just who I am now. No going back. I like this quote. Every time I feel like I'm not working out or straying from tracking my food intake, I remind myself why I'm doing it and that the only way to achieve the results I want are to do these things. And while in the grand scheme of things, skipping one workout or screwing up my nutrition for one day isn't going to totally derail me, it's also not doing me any favors. A similar quote that I like goes something like this. Success is a sum total of all the small efforts repeated day in and day out. Embrace the turtle, everyone. I saw this on r/Get Motivated. Action comes before motivation. There is no lightning strike motivation from the gods. The quickest way to get motivated is to get up and take a step forward. Motivation comes second. It comes naturally with forward momentum. It's also worth remembering that motivation comes in waves, but often if you're disciplined during the low points of your motivation, the motivation high comes quicker and lasts longer. Plus you get the added bonus of being proud of yourself for getting through the low. I think of it more like a habit than discipline though. It helps me feel like it's automatic rather than I'm forcing myself to do it. Yep, there are times when I'm super, I can do this, no problem, yay, losing weight, and times when I'm super, oh god, this sucks, why do calories have to exist? The former are easier than the latter, but I just grind through the low points because I just kind of have to. It doesn't even feel like discipline, although I know it is. It just feels like, okay, I got this, if I freaking have to, I guess, but ugh. It took me a while to understand that for me, it's not about discipline either. I just have no respect for authority, even if it's me. What does seem to work for me is setting up systems that encourage behaviors I want to see. Example, I've set up my meal planning process in such a way that it is actually easier to follow than to not. I do this at times when my motivation and mental energy is high, so I can just do whatever I feel like when it is not. And I'm trying to set things up so the things I feel like at these times are still the right things for my goals, or at least not contrary to them. I see your point, and to an extent, I agree with you. But to another extent, I think sometimes it's not always about discipline. Sometimes it's just ingrained habits that are so deeply ingrained we don't even think to question them. Or it's such a big change, we don't even know how to incorporate the new changes into our lifestyle. I completely agree with you. You can have all the motivation in the world, but if you don't actually do it, the motivation doesn't really help. And then, when you run out of motivation, rather than relying on discipline, one can rely on habits. For me, at least in my belief, I didn't think it was discipline, but more so I had to actually fit habits into my lifestyle. I tried the habits and tips and tricks from other people, but they didn't work because I was working against my lifestyle, against my habits, and against what was easier for me. Once I found healthier habits that were easy to start and easy to keep and fit into my life and actually made my life easier, I found more success. So rather than relying on willpower, I have habits in place that I can do without thinking or convincing myself to do it when I don't feel like it. It's a habit now. There's no feeling like it or not feeling like it. I only say this not to argue with you, but there may come a day you accidentally forgot to track calories, or maybe you get busy or an emergency happens and you can't work out one day. And this doesn't mean you're undisciplined. Sometimes life happens and screws everything up, but we can still have healthy habits that are a norm to rely on when motivation and discipline and willpower runs out. There may be days when you're super sad or stressed or sick, or you get hurt or somehow something unexpected happens, and you make a less than ideal choice or compromise regarding your health and your goals. I don't want you or anyone else to think that these lapses are personal failures of not being disciplined, that's all. But as long as you can get back to it and make the healthy choices coincide with your comfort level and desires in life, and then, by all means, you made a big change and proved yourself to be disciplined, motivated, and on the path to progress. And that brings us to the end, Nerdwalls. And please tap subscribe to join the original 100k Nerdwalls. And lastly, here's our featured Nerdwall of the day. Last January versus yesterday. 5'8", starting weight 241 pounds, current weight 161, and goal weight 150/145.